Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a brand new podcast in which we discuss Denver sporting news. We break down the games and we talk about what's to come for the teams we love, all through the lens of a bettor. This is the Denver Dollar, and I am your host, Daniel Shalansky. Now, without further ado, let's get to it. So the Nuggets do play today. The date today is Saturday, February 6, 2021. The Nuggets do play today. They're matched up against the Knicks. However, we're dedicating the day. We're not going to talk about the Nuggets game, unfortunately. We're dedicating the day to the Super Bowl. And I know this is the Denver Dollar. We're supposed to talk about Denver sports. And the Super Bowl is kind of the antithesis of Denver sports. You know, Bronco fans are really torn. They have to either root for Tom Brady or they have to either root for a divisional rival in the Kansas City Chiefs. There is no winner that we will be satisfied with. So let's bet our brains out and just be happy that we're making money on the game. So yeah, I'm going to be focusing on pretty much every single bet that I find interesting or that I like in this game. I was really excited to talk about some of the fun props, including the over/under on the national anthem. But just kind of a fun tidbit, the national anthem was removed from all betting websites because a recording of the singer practicing was leaked, and it did hit the under, and everyone would have voted for a bet on the under at that point. However, obviously, you know, that's a lot of knowledge that would go against the nature of betting, so people were unable to bet on that after a certain point. So that is one that I'm not highlighting, but there are some ridiculous ones in here that I am going to talk about, including, you know, the first type of penalty. There were some other ones I was looking at that were really fun, like at plus 175, there was any field goal attempt or point after attempt to hit the uprights or the crossbar. So anything that, you know, results in a doink would have been money. I didn't feel comfortable betting on that. I only like betting on the things that, you know, we can do some research on. That one is almost pure chance. But yeah, there are a lot of fun bets. So without further ado, let's get into it. Talking about some of the popular ones, in terms of the money line, the Chiefs are favored. They're at minus 162 versus the Buccaneers are at plus 140. I'm not touching the money line. You know me. I like the three-way money line. It's always the way to go. Only one game in recent memory has gone into overtime. One Super Bowl in recent memory has gone into overtime, and that was when the Patriots played against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't expect this game to go into overtime, so I'm taking the three-way money line to get better value on betting on the Chiefs. So the first bet that I have taken in this game is I'm willing to bet that the Chiefs cover the spread of 3 points. I do think that the Chiefs win, and I do think it will be by a margin of 3. That's locked in at minus 112, so not great payout. But I do think the Chiefs win. I like this more than the money line because of the value of minus 112 versus, you know, minus 162, which is the normal money line. So I think if the Chiefs win, it will be by at least a field goal. And I was very happy earlier. The line was 3.5, but now they made it 3. And that makes it so that even if the Chiefs win by exactly a field goal, I'm about to sneeze. I've been holding a sneeze back for a little bit. I hate that. And now it's gone. So that sucks. If the Chiefs win by exactly a field goal, I would just get my money back. But if it's by anything more than a field goal, then I would win. So I got $5 down on that. The next bet that I took was I bought a teaser in terms of points. I do think that the Chiefs win, and I wanted a positive value. If the Chiefs are able to win by a touchdown or more, I got the Chiefs to win by a margin of 5.5. The Chiefs against a spread of 5.5 points for plus 133. I got $5 down on that. That's a bet I really like. Now for total points, I'm taking the under. The over-under is pretty astronomical here at 56. I mean, we've seen some pretty high-scoring Super Bowls, and we know that both these teams are very capable on offense. But what people don't really talk about is both these teams have some of the best defenses in the league. And if we look back to, you know, what happened earlier in the playoffs, neither of these, only one single game between these two teams had reached this total scoring scoring margin. Of 56 points. When the Chiefs played against the Bills in the AFC Championship, a total of 43 points were scored. And when they played against the Browns, a total of 39 points were scored. When the Bucks played against the Packers, a total of 57 points were scored. So that's the one instance that this, you know, number of 56 points was hit. And that was a 31-26 scored game. It was very high scoring. I don't expect that to happen again. And when the Bucks played the Saints, 50 total points were scored. It was 30-20. Obviously, you know, the Packers are a good offense, but the Bucks haven't played an offense in the playoffs like the Chiefs. There is no offense like the Chiefs. They are the best offense in the league. But I'm still willing to bet that it's going to be under 56 points. In fact, I also bought a teaser for even better value. The under 56 points was locked in at minus 109. I got $5 down on that. I also have $5 down on the under being 52.5 points of plus 135. So I do like that. I am willing to bet that both teams are in the 20s. I don't think more than 56 points will be scored in this game. I took my three-way money line. Instead of getting the value of minus 162, I got minus 152 on the Chiefs of winning the game through 4 quarters. So that means the Chiefs have to win and no overtime. In addition to that, I have a single parlay down, which is the Chiefs against the spread and the under. Locked in at plus 260. Like I said, I think Chiefs win. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Combining them into a parlay for maximum value. That's what we like to do here on the Denver Dollar. I bet on an MVP winner. I bet that Patrick Mahomes wins the MVP at minus 106. And then I also took another bet to kind of hedge that just in case. I put $50 down on this one, and this is just that a quarterback will win the MVP. Unless we see a game that is so low scoring, last time it was a non-quarterback that won the MVP was Von Miller when they played against the Panthers, and that's because it was, the ghost or the shell of Peyton Manning playing quarterback, and the Broncos won. If the Panthers had won, it would have, you bet your ass it would have been Cam Newton. But because no one could have given it to Peyton Manning at that point, considering the fact that he's old as shit and was, really struggling throughout the season. That was the last time you saw a defensive player win the MVP. It's going to be a quarterback, and that's why I got a lot of money down. I put $50 down. It's at minus 305, so I win $16.50 if that works out, and that's my most confident bet. I think that one's as much of a winner as you can get. If you have a lot of money to spare and you only want to make one bet, I would do that. That's by far the safest. Now, I bet because I think that the under will be around that mark of 52.5 points where I bought the teaser, I'm willing to bet that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I think that they're going to lose, I'm willing to bet that they get the under of 26.5 points, locked in at minus 108. I took that. Now, here is another bet that I took that is... There was a lot of math behind this bet. This was the winning margin in this game. I bet on 4 different things. I bet that the Chiefs win by a margin of 1 to 6 points at plus 250. I put down $10 on that one, so I would walk away with 35 if that hits. Betting, so that's $10. Even though I'm really going to be betting $30 in total, I'm considering it a $30 bet because I'm doing 10, 10, and then 5 and 5. So I put $10 down that the Chiefs win by a margin of 1 to 6, and I bet $10 that the Bucks win by a margin of 1 to 6 at plus 320. So if that one hits, then I would walk away with $42 on that initial $30 bet. I also bet that the Chiefs win by a margin of 7 to 12 points at plus 420, and I put $5 down. I would walk away with like $27 there, and I also did the same thing for the Bucks, that they win by a margin of 7 to 12 points at plus 650. So if they win, I walk away with $32.50. No, I walk away with $37.50. So the reason I did that is because it's going to be a close-scoring game. Super Bowls are rarely blowouts. I'm sorry, Bronco fans. We know what happened in 2013. But Super Bowls are rarely blowouts, and I'm basically betting money that the margin of victory for either team won't be any larger than 12 points. And in doing so, I'm pretty much guaranteeing myself money, the way I allocated money to different bets, that if either team wins by less than, 7 to 12 points, or by less than 12 points, then I am winning money so the only ways I lose money in this bet are that if the Chiefs win by a margin of 7 to 12 points, I'm losing like $2.50. So what? If and then if any team wins by more than 12 points, I'm losing $30. So that's basically what I'm betting against. This is also a really safe bet. It's kind of weird to bet against so many mutually exclusive things, but I'm doing it anyway. I also bet that neither team reaches 30 points. I really like the value on this. Only, the Buccaneers have reached 30 points in both of their last playoff matchups, but the Chiefs haven't. And I'm expecting, like I said, I'm expecting a low-scoring game. And The value here is good enough. Realistically, I mean, it would make sense. I'd say it's 50-50 whether or not a team does get to that mark of 30 points. The over-under with the insinuated, implied point totals definitely, suggests that. Except for, like I said, I do think it's the under. I'm going under all the way in this game. So I'm betting at plus 175 that neither team reaches 30 points. This is all through Bet Rivers. I'm sure other apps that you might be using, especially not the legal, but the offshore ones like Bovada or MyBookie. They have way wilder bets, and you're allowed to parlay some crazy things. But this is all on Bet Rivers, and there still are some crazy bets that we have to discuss here. I took the Chiefs to score first and win. Tom Brady, the reason behind this is that Tom Brady in his 10 Super Bowls has scored a total output of 3 points on his opening drives. So whether or not he gets the kickoff or not, he's never scored a touchdown on his first drive, and he's only scored a field goal in 1 out of his 10 drives. So the track record suggests that Tom Brady is slow to start in the Super Bowls and always warms up towards the end. So using that narrative, I took a few bets, and this was one of them, that the Chiefs score first and win. That's locked in at plus 160. I got $5 down on that. For a successful 2-point conversion. It's the Super Bowl. We see it time in and time out. When a team is down by several possessions and it makes sense for them to go for 2, they will go for 2. And especially both the teams are going to be putting it all on the line because it's the goddamn Super Bowl. At plus 230, I got $5 down that a team will record a successful 2-point conversion. In terms of lead changes in this game, I have the under on 1.5 at plus 120. My logic for that is that the Patriots, or not the Patriots, I'm so sorry. The Buccaneers always start slow. Not the Buccaneers. Tom Brady always starts slow. So I'm expecting that the Buccaneers, even if they are able to pull it out, they will be down throughout the game and only come back at the very end. And if not, I expect the Chiefs to be up throughout the whole game. I think the Chiefs will get to a lead early in the game. So I'm willing to bet that there are less than 1.5 lead changes in this game. And at plus 120, I think that's really good value. In terms of individual players to score, obviously I think Travis Kelce scores. Obviously I think Tyreek Hill scores. But I wasn't getting great value with those bets. They were both at minus 162. I didn't want to bet on who scores first because that's always risky. So I bet on the Bucs side of the ball, Mike Evans has a touchdown in each of the Bucs playoff games, and he was set at plus 100 to score a single touchdown in the game. So I put $5 down on that to walk away with $10. I do think Mike Evans scores a touchdown on the Buccaneers. Another one was Leonard Fournette scored 2 touchdowns against the Packers last week. And he's set at plus 125 to score a touchdown in this game. I mean, if you were to tell me pick 2 players on the Buccaneers who you think are going to score a touchdown, those are my 2 most likely players to score a touchdown. And they're both in the value of, plus 100 and plus 125. They're both in the positive money making category. They're both in the plus. So I took both of those guys. To score. Now, I know I said I wouldn't take, a player to score the first touchdown, but there was a promotion going on by Bet Rivers that I couldn't pass up. I have at plus 350 either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce to score the first touchdown. And I mean, those are the main 2 guys on the Chiefs to score a touchdown. And, you saw in the first game that the Chiefs played in the playoffs, they played against the Browns. Mahomes actually ran the ball in, but when they played against the Bills, Travis Kelce did score the first touchdown of that game. He's going to be looking for Travis Kelce early and often. I don't think he necessarily would have those Super Bowl jitters, but that's so familiar for them. That connection is, their chemistry is so good. I would expect him to be looking for Travis Kelce early and often. So I have both of those guys to score the first touchdown in the game at plus 350. I don't think the Bucs will score the first touchdown considering Tom Brady's track record of starting slow in the Super Bowl. Another bet that includes Travis Kelce to score the first touchdown. I hounded Travis Kelce bets. I think he has a tremendous day. He's the best tight end in the league, and people are going to really see that again on display tomorrow. So I do have Travis Kelce to score the first touchdown and for the Chiefs to win. I put $5 down at plus 900. So if he scores the first touchdown and the Chiefs win, I'm more confident that the Chiefs win. I'm walking away with $50. That's, $45 net gain on a $5 bet. I think that's absolutely worth it. I also bet on Travis Kelce just to win or score a touchdown period and for the Chiefs to win. This one will definitely hedge the last bet because I think those both are going to happen. And even if he doesn't score the first touchdown, he's going to score a touchdown in this game. And I have that at plus 125. And I put $5 down on that. So I obviously wanted to score the first touchdown and for the Chiefs to win. But even if he scores a touchdown period, this bet completely hedges the other one. In addition to that, I bet that the a tight end will score the first touchdown of the game. Gronk, between Gronk and Brate, like, it makes sense. Tom Brady does like his tight ends, and those guys are both, big red zone targets. And Travis Kelce on the Chiefs side of the ball, obviously. At plus 300, I bet that a tight end scores the first touchdown of the game. I really like that bet. Now, this is one of the wonky ones. The jersey number of the first touchdown score in the game, including overtime. But there's going to be a touchdown before overtime. We all know that, even if the game does go into overtime. And it was an over-under on the jersey number set at 24.5. I took the under on this because let me tell you the guys that I was thinking about scoring the first touchdown. If Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady rushes it in, that's the under. If obviously, the tight ends are what screws me here, but pretty much all of the wide receivers on either team are under this mark of 24.5. You look at the Chiefs, they got Tyreek Hill rocking number 10. You got Sammy Watkins, you got Byron Pringle, you got Mecole Hardman. All of those guys are in the teens range. And on the Chiefs side on the Bucs side of the ball, Mike Evans is in there, Chris Godwin's number 14. All of those guys are below number 20. So if it goes to a receiver, then it will be under this mark of 24.5. This is kind of hedging my tight end bet almost, because I'm getting minus 103 here. So while I do want a tight end, especially Travis Kelce, to score the first touchdown, I would make a lot of money. This is kind of hedging those bets and winning me at least the money back on one of those. All the running backs that are relevant, however, are above that mark of 24.5. Ronald Jones is number 27. Leonard Fournette's number 28. Darrell Williams is number 31. Clyde Edwards is number 25, I believe. Or is he 28? I think he's 25. But no matter what, he's above this mark of 24.5. So I'm taking the under because I think it's going to be one of those wide receivers to hedge if it's not one of those tight ends. Now, I stand to lose a decent amount of money if a running back scores the first touchdown of the game, but based on the passing volume of these two teams and how they're not very committed to the run game, I don't think that'll be the case. I bet on the under in total for total passing yards of Tom Brady. He's set at 295.5. In the last two games in the playoffs, he didn't record that much. He recorded 280 and then 199 in the past two games that he's played in the playoffs. So, you're getting better value with the under at minus 106 than the over. And I think he's less likely. I don't think he's likely to hit this mark of 295.5, considering the fact that he hasn't been throwing the ball for that many passing yards, so far in the playoffs. In terms of, I also bet on his under in completion percentage at 62.5. In the first game of the playoffs, he threw it for 54.5% completion, and in the second game of the playoffs, he threw for 55.5. So, the track record suggests that he will hit the under. He's been throwing the ball so much. He threw 36 and 33 times, and, when you're throwing the ball that much, that's basically replacing your run game at that point, and, expect more incompletions. So I took the under, and you're getting better value with the under of plus 120 versus minus 135, so I do like the under there, especially at that value. Another bet I have is total passing yards in the first half. I'm taking the under on Tom Brady there at 149.5. I think he gets less than this mark of, 295.5 in the game. And like I said, Tom Brady always starts in the Super Bowl slow. That's a narrative I'm buying. That's a narrative I'm rolling with. That's a narrative that's going to win me a lot of money. So I'm especially confident in this bet that he has, less than 150 passing yards in the first half. I'm betting the under on Gronk for a few different things. I'm betting the under on Gronk reception yards. In the first game of the playoffs, he had 14 receiving yards, and in the most recent game, he had 29 receiving yards. He's locked in at 29.5, so it is close, but I'm getting better value with the under than with the over at plus 101 versus minus 120, and I do think he hits the under. He hasn't hit over that mark yet in the playoffs, so why would I, believe that he hits it in this game? I also have the under on his receptions. In the first game, he had one reception. In the first game, he had two receptions. In the last game, he had one reception. So I do think it will be the under, because the under is locked in here at 2.5. So I'm hoping for, Brady not to look Gronk's way too much in this game. And if not, which is what I do expect to happen, then I will have a decent payout shorting Gronk's various stats. I'm betting the over on Scotty Miller yards. He's only listed at 20.5. Now, in the first game, he had 36 receiving yards, and in the last game, he had 29 receiving yards. So it's likely that he hits the over, and you're getting good value at plus 110 on the over. So I'm taking the over Scotty Miller receiving yards. I'm also taking the over on Scotty Miller receptions of it was at 1.5. Again, he only had one reception in one game and two in the other game, but he's their deep guy, and I expect Brady to be looking his way, especially if they're down, which is, what's going to happen, considering we know how Tom Brady does these playoffs. He gets down, and then he, tries to come back. So I'm betting the over on Scotty Miller receptions of 1.5 at plus 110. So put $5 down on that. That's really good value. Now, this is kind of another risky bet, but I bet Travis Kelce to have the most receiving yards in the game. Like I said, I'm riding this man to the ground. He's locked in at plus 180 to have the most receiving yards in the game. And of everyone in the game, he certainly averages the most receiving yards. And, in both of the Chiefs' playoff games, I believe he had the most receiving yards. Now, Demarcus Robinson did against the Bills, but I think that's kind of an outlier. I don't expect that to happen. And in the other game, actually, Tyreek Hill had one more receiving yard than him, but I expect this to be a Travis Kelce game. I also bet that on Travis Kelce's first reception, I kind of regretted this one after taking it, but I bet that his first reception is over 12.5 yards. The reason I kind of regretted it is because, I can imagine the first play of the game, the Chiefs just want to do something that they're confident with, and they might not run him so far down the field. They might just hope for like a 6-yard gain to Travis Kelce, but I bet that he takes over 12.5 yards on his first reception. He averages, more than that in terms of depth of target, so I would expect him to, and he's a great yards after the catch guy, and you're locked in at plus 110, which is good value, so that is why I took that, not because of narrative necessarily, not because of what I believe to happen, but just because the value there is too good. Now, I also bet on Travis Kelce to have the first reception of the game, and this is risky because if the Bucs, get the ball first, then obviously this won't happen. I would expect Tom Brady to have a completion before they give the ball over to the Kansas City Chiefs. But the reason I took this instead of Travis Kelce to merely have the first reception for the Kansas City Chiefs, I bet on him to have the first reception of everyone on both teams, is because if I were to bet on him just to have the first reception for the Chiefs, I'd be locked in at plus 200. But here I'm locked in at plus 600. So say it decreases the likelihood that it happens by 50%, considering the fact that the Bucs could get the ball first. The other one should be plus 300. The bet that Travis Kelce gets the first reception on the Kansas City Chiefs should be plus 300, but it's plus 200, and that either means that this bet that I took is, is overvalued, and the value's too good on it, or the value's too bad on the other one. But nonetheless, they should reflect a 2-to-1 ratio, but they don't. It reflects a 3-to-1 ratio. Again, I like my boy Travis Kelce. I bet Travis Kelce that has more than 100 receiving yards and the Chiefs win at plus 190. On the season, he was averaging more than 100 receiving yards, and if the Chiefs win, then I think that's a really good bet, especially at plus 190. A bet that I took for Tom Brady was that I bet he hits the over on rushing yards, locked in at 0.5. Tom Brady's the king of the QB sneak. If he rushes for any yards at all, that's a winner, and it's locked in at plus 130. I couldn't pass that up, especially considering the fact that in each of the playoff games that the Bucs have played, they won a game, or they won both games, but in one of the games, he had 3 rush attempts for -1 yard, so he did have minus yards on his rush attempts, but I think that's kind of an outlier when Tom Brady decides to run. It's usually because things are wide open, and in the other game, he had 2 yards on several QB sneaks. The only thing that could really mess this up is if the Bucs are winning. I keep saying the Patriots. I hate the Patriots. If the Bucs are winning at the end of the game and Tom Brady's taking knees, that will, if he's kneeling the ball, that will mess with his rush yards. I believe that's why he actually had negative rush yards in the other game against the Saints. But I don't expect that to be the case here. I do think the Chiefs win. I don't think there will be any period of time in this game where the Bucs are kneeling the ball. I bet on Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have the most rushing yards in the game at plus 400. And I don't think this is necessarily likely to happen. I do think it'll be Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones. But the reason I took this is because he had 162 rushing yards last game. So if they give the ball to him early and often and it's succeeding and he's, really doing a good job rushing the ball, getting chunk yardage, then I don't think that the Chiefs will necessarily get away from it. And like I said, he had 162 rush yards in the last game. At plus 400 for him to have the most rush yards, I think the value is absolutely too good to pass up on. In addition to that, I also took Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have more than 50 rush yards and for the Chiefs to win. I also consider that super likely. Again, in the last game, he had 162 and the Chiefs dominated. They know that if they can establish the run game and it's going well for them, then that's a really good sign that they will pull out a victory. In terms of total points, I bet that Harrison Butker will have less than 8.5 points in this game. That would, require him to hit 2 field goals and 3 extra points. I don't see it happening, especially with the fact that it's a Super Bowl. Teams are going to be more likely to go for the touchdown rather than settle for 3, especially knowing how Bruce Arians plays, even though I didn't bet on Ryan Suckup because he was, listed at 7.5. I didn't quite feel comfortable taking the under there, but I did feel comfortable taking the under here at 8.5 for Harrison Butker. I bet that Tom Brady loses a fumble at plus 350. Obviously, he hasn't so far in these playoffs, but he's the number 1 fumbler in Super Bowl history. He against the Giants that one year, he had like 3 fumbles. He's going to have a few turnovers, whether it be an interception or a fumble. He had 3 interceptions in the last game against the Packers, but if he does have a measly fumble, we know how good the Chiefs are at the pass rush. If he does record a measly single fumble and the Chiefs do secure the ball, plus 350 is very good value. I had to take it. Now, in terms of the first penalty type, I took 2 different ones for this. I took a holding call at plus 230 because holding is the most common penalty that you do see in the NFL, but I also took a false start at plus 400. The reason being is that, players are going to be nervous for the Super Bowl and they might, be jittery. And what's one way to get your jitters out? Accidentally jumping the line and going early, going first. So I have 2 bets on what the first penalty will be. Again, the holding or a false start. I think, there will be a lot of Super Bowl jitters, and that would, mean that a player is more likely to jump off sides at the beginning of the game. Now, finally, the last bet that I took in this game is, again, along the narrative that Tom Brady starts slow in the playoffs. At plus 100, I took Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to punt the ball first. Again, he's only scored in 1 out of his first 10 possessions in the Super Bowl, and that possession resulted in a field goal. So he has not found success at the very beginning of Super Bowls on his first drives, and he's punted it he had no turnovers. Yeah, he's punted it 9 out of 10 times on the first drive. So at plus 100, I couldn't not take that bet here. I know that was just kind of rapid fire. I wish I could have talked about some of those, more crazy props. Unfortunately, there are no weekend props. I would have loved to guess what his first song is when he comes out. I would have loved to have guessed, weekend set time. There are a ton of fun props, and I'm sure you can find those on other websites. But I'm holding true to Bet Rivers, and there are none of those bets that were available through Bet Rivers. So that was kind of rapid fire. Comment any, picks of your own that you either disagree with or you agree with, or just, other bets that you took that you're confident in, you're excited for the game tomorrow. I'm pretty sad that, on a side note, that the NFL season is coming to an end. I'm an avid fantasy player. I watch every single game throughout the season. It's nice that we have basketball to look forward to here, but it sucks that the last game of the NFL season is between Tom Brady and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a lose-lose, so what's the plan? Hang out with my friends, eat some good food, and hope to win some money. I'm going to be avidly watching, tracking all of those bets that I just placed. I hope that you take some advice, and we're going to win some money. I think there's lots of money to be gained in this Super Bowl tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you later.